welcome to another episode of the Better Woman Project podcast. My name is Celia Lopez, and I'm here with my co-host,
Naima, and our podcast is dedicated towards embracing womanhood in the modern world and, of course, self-improvement. And in today's episode, who do we have here?
We have Laura.
Hello.
And Demi.
Hi.
Yeah, and Laura is a mortgage agent.
Correct.
At the Mortgage Coach, and Demi is a financial guru, and also helper. The reason I call her guru is because she's helped so much in giving me so much advice about finance. Mm-hmm. So we have Demi here as well. But obviously, you don't identify as a guru, do you?
No, not anymore. So I'm a financial professional. Yeah.
All right. So would you like to should we just get a little bit of? Do you want to ask some questions to kind of get the ball rolling?
Yeah, for sure. So on today's episode, we wanted to talk about what it means to be, I guess, a modern woman. So when you guys hear, Laura, if you hear that question, what does a modern woman today mean to you?
So I think that a modern woman changes based on who you're asking. But for me, it just is a woman who is independent and gets to define their own role in today's society. So for me personally, it means that I'm a woman who can pursue my career and also have my family, and I can balance the two in the way that best fits me at that time. And maybe there's going to be days where I'm totally focused on, doing the mortgage business, networking, going out there and working with my clients. But then there's going to be days where I choose to pull that back and focus specifically on my family and my kids. And being a modern woman allows me to have that choice and be able to make it for myself. And nobody else is defining for me that choosing one or the other or having both is what makes me a woman. I get to choose for myself. That's what I feel.
That was a great answer. I think we need to end it there.
I just think it's about getting to have that choice for yourself, what you are choosing to do with your time, with your life, with your goals, and nobody else is dictating that for you.
Love that.
And so when that question comes up, that's what I immediately think of.
And here I was just thinking about clothes.
Oh my gosh. Okay, modern woman, we're into skincare, all that kind of stuff as well. Yeah. Being able to, I can spend my money on what I choose to spend my money on. So
Laura is like an onion. She's just she's sharing her depth.
If I want to spend all my money on skincare, I can choose to do that as well. And nobody gets to tell me otherwise.
For sure.
Yeah.
So with that, we're going to move on to our next speaker. That's a hard act to follow. So Demi, what would you say it is to be a woman in today's world?
I believe embracing independence is key in today's world, right? Like back in the days where we have our mother do so much and they depend on, every other person for support, both financially, mentally, spiritual support, everything you can think about, right? It has to come from other people, right? But these days, you see women taking charge of their life, right? They're able to make decisions when they want to, and when they want to take the back role, they still do that, right? Comfortably. That is what being modern is to me.
On to the next question. I'm sure all of you guys recall what it was like being a young person, a young girl. And now I feel like a woman today, but I'm just curious about both of you. When did you feel like, you transitioned from being a girl to a woman? And what was that significant moment or time that caused that transformation or that identity shift? So Demi, would you like to start this one?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. I would say that for me, I grew up very fast. I started taking charge of my life at a very young age because I grew up with a single mom, and over time, I had to start taking care of my younger brother, and I have to start thinking about, what is the next step? How do I want to grow in life? How do I want to face so many challenges coming my way? So I grew up pretty fast. Like, I can't even remember the last time I was a girl. So, yes. So, and which has its own really great part, and a lot of struggle as well. So that's one of the things I tell my daughter. I tell her, just chill, relax, enjoy your youth, enjoy your childhood, right? Because life happens to some people and they don't even get to remember the last time they were kids, right? So, yes, it was pretty too fast that I can't even remember being a girl.
Yeah. How old were you roughly?
Yeah, I got into the university when I was like 14, 15 years old.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Wow.
so I was in the uni at that age, and I graduated around 21.
Amazing.
Right, and I got married at 22. So
Wow.
yeah, and things progress pretty fast. I learned a lot of lessons along the way. So many of my friends are way more older than me, and they said that, oh, the way you handle things matured. I'm like, okay, what does that even mean, right? Because like I said, life happens, and you just grew up.
You just grew up like
you grew up
so fast.
You don't have a choice. You have to grow up.
Yep.
You have to pick up the slack, and you have to keep going. And that is what it is for me.
Yeah. Did you grow up here?
No, I grew up in Nigeria.
Okay.
Yeah. Whereabouts in Nigeria?
What about in Nigeria? Yeah, Nigeria is great. Like, I grew up with a modern mother. My mother lived in the UK all her life. So, there was not, like, I learned to be independent right from her. My mother was like, she was a perfectionist. She had the best education, So things like that I learned really fast. So I got all the life examples, all the life lessons from my mom, right? So I was able to make use of them as I live my own
Shout
life.
out to your mom.
Yeah, she's great, but she's the best.
Oh my God, moms, right?
Yeah.
I just realized both of them are moms, but it didn't click until we were just talking to Demi, and then Laura mentioned as well.
It's true.
So how about you? What was the milestone like, Laura?
So I think there's a lot of pivotal moments in my life from being young to an adult that kind of sort of fast forward the trajectory into womanhood. But one thing that really sticks out for me is when I was pregnant with my first son, I was 18, had him when I was 19. So I feel like that was a really pivotal moment in my life that switched me from being just like a teenager to having to be an adult, being a full-fledged woman and a mom. Yeah. And shortly after he was born, I got married. So I had him when I was 19, got married when I was 20, and then I had my second child when we were 23. So I think really quickly I came out of those like teen years into womanhood. And along with that comes the responsibility of raising 2 kids, trying to have like a marriage, having a mortgage, all those kind of things, and then pressures of thoughts into the future. And of course, I also then think my separation trajected me into a different type of womanhood, right? So like more of an independent womanhood, one where I have to make all the decisions for myself, for my kids, redefine my future. So I think throughout the course of my life, there's always going to be moments that are going to kind of force me into maybe a different pathway or a different level of womanhood. I don't think it's going to just stay the same. And I do see that even now as my kids are older. I mean, we have second year university, second year high school.
Wow.
There's a level of independence that they have. So now I have time for me
Yeah.
as a woman to kind of figure out what I want next. So where is this next level of womanhood going to take me, whether it's personal or professional? And so I just think it's constantly evolving for me, but I can see very clearly in my mind certain moments that sort of move that needle a little further ahead, right?
And I love that. I love that there's different levels, like you said, of where you are in your womanhood.
Yeah.
Like there's a first phase with your kids and second phase with your marriage, and now you're almost like a empty nester.
I mean,
one kid down.
Yeah, sometimes I don't even see my son, right? Like he's in a totally different level than I am, right? He's working, going to school, hanging out with friends. So it is different, and it leaves me a lot of thought for the next chapter.
Yeah.
What's next?
Which sounds exciting.
Scary and exciting. So yeah.
Oh, I did not realize you had them that young. That must have been so obviously just a switch, life changing, right?
Yeah, but you know what? I look back on it and really it's like the best times of my life, and I wouldn't change it. I don't feel like I was ill prepared. I was very lucky, had a lot of support with my family, but I think it happened for me at the right time. It made a lot of change in my life, obviously. And I look at my son who turned 19 last year, and it's like, I used to be 19, and see where he is at 19 compared to where I was at 19. It's very different.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, that's a huge milestone. And speaking of milestone, maybe we should go into oftentimes. So the two key moments that we've heard where a lot of people feel like they've grown into adulthood is when they have to take over a financial responsibility, or they have started thinking about another milestone, which is, obviously purchasing something, making a big purchase, whether it's a car, home, or taking a big step. So those are the main things that people often say. So I'm gonna defer to Laura, because I know Laura is in mortgage. So I'm just curious, what is that a huge that with that milestone? Like, how do you how do you walk someone through that, for the jitter of kind of making that big jump?
Mm-hmm. It's a huge milestone, and in my own life, I can compare it, and I take my own life experience when I talk to clients. So I bought my first house when I was 23. It was at a time when you could buy with zero down.
That's amazing.
40-year amortization. Like, it wasn't that difficult to get into home ownership. Had I not been able to buy my first home, we would not have been able to move up. So we bought a first very small home in Scarborough. We were ready to move up to something bigger and larger. We were able to sell that house, take the equity, and we bought a brand new build out in Oshawa. And then we lived there for a couple of years. We then decided we didn't like it, sold that house, took the equity, bought something smaller in Ajax. And a milestone in terms of, like, for me personally, when I really felt, okay, like, I've done it, I've done really well, is after my separation. I needed to figure out where I was going to live, what I was going to do. And I tell this story very often, especially to my first-time home buyers. I just wanted a 3-bedroom townhouse with my kids. I wasn't asking for anything much. I just wanted something small and cute and manageable. And we needed to stay in Ajax, where I live. At the time, I could only afford to buy a 2-bedroom condo. Those were the only things on the market in Ajax that I could afford on my own. So I bought the 2-bedroom condo. My daughter and I shared a room for 4 years. My son had his own room. And then after 4 years, I was able to sell that property and purchase a home, which was a huge goal for me. I wanted my own detached home again. And I was able to do that because I leveraged the power of real estate in my benefit and patience. I had to wait. So that was a huge milestone for me, being able to, first of all, buy my condo on my own. And then second, now being able to buy a home on my own, which was a goal for me. And so those are two huge milestones when it comes to accepting a financial responsibility. And I would like to say, because it's very important, getting my puppy Alice. If you know me, you know I love her. She's also a huge pivotal milestone for me because she represents to me getting back a lot of the things that I lost. So I had a dog which I lost. I had a home which I lost. And then when I got my own home, I got my own dog too. Aww. And so Alice, I love her. And if I don't mention her on here, it's not me. Yeah. So she's a huge milestone for me as well. She symbols like a lot of that for me, which may be silly because she's a dog, but it's a big milestone for me.
What kind of dog?
She's a Shih Tzu.
Okay. Oh, cute.
And she's so cute. Aww. And I think she's a baby. So
love it.
But speaking of, being financially responsible and ready for that big step, Demi, how does one, now that we don't have the zero down payment method available to us, how does one get financially ready for something as big as a home purchase?
Honestly, I believe it's just taking charge of your finances and being able to clean up, right? So the first thing I tell people is you need to build a budget. Like you have to take control of your cash flow, how much is coming in and how much is going out. That is key. That is important. That is when you know if you have enough to start saving. Because one thing I know everybody says to me all the time is, I don't have money. Like the money is not enough. But majority of the time when we go through the process of understanding our cash flow, we realize that there's always something somewhere. But because we don't have a plan for it, is just flow along with every expense. So being able to put any little thing aside, especially in a country like Canada, where you have some first-time home buyer incentives, right? You can, take advantage of that. Now we have the first home buyer savings plans as well, right?
Definitely.
You can start saving towards that, start putting something aside, getting a return, and if you don't have that much money, start thinking about how can you improve your income? How can you make extra income? Do you want to look at starting a business, going through the line of entrepreneurship, or do you want to get a second job? Just think about ways at which you can improve your finances.
Like bring in some cash flow and start budgeting. That's a great tip, actually. A lot of people often miss that step. And I know that Salia actually wanted to ask you another question, so I'm gonna pass it on to Salia. Do you have any question for Danny?
No, I guess my question too is just because our podcast is dedicated towards younger women. So let's say between the ages of 18, like what would be a good game plan for them to get started, especially when they have their first job or like their first step in career, financial planning, right? So like, what does that mean? What should they do first?
Yes, Leah, that is important, a lot of young people think they have time. Oh my gosh, I'm guilty. I'm guilty.
My son says that to me all the time. I tell him, save for your down payment, save for your down payment. He's like, I don't need to worry about that right now. And you do.
Honestly, it's quarter course. It's everywhere. Every young person you may think, oh, I can do that next year. I can do that in another 2 years. I'm just 18. But when it comes to money, what do you call it now? When it comes to compounding, it has to do with time. Mm-hmm. So if you don't have the time, you have to have the money.
Yep.
So now that you have the time, you can start as little as you can. Mm-hmm. Thinking about when you get to like almost 40 now, what are you going to do? What are you supposed to start when you're 18? Yeah. Dropping like $100. Now you're thinking of dropping like $1,000, right? Yeah. So you either have the time or you have the money. Yeah. So now that there's time, I always talk to the younger people to start putting something aside. Yep. First, you think about retirement. Retirement is a great deal. It's one of the major investments you're ever going to get into. And it's just down and along the line, right? There's no time. You have to start with your very first paycheck. Mm-hmm. You want to make a big purchase, start saving. Mm-hmm. No matter what you save, it compounds. Yeah. And you need time to grow money, like every other things in life. So it's just that simple. Yeah, you want to grow money, give it time.
And what's a good hack? Like I know for me, a good hack is like I have an automated savings thing that comes up on my let's say my RBC app, not to make a plug, but it just takes out like $20 a month. I don't even notice that it's gone. And then before the end of the year, it's like, oh wow, I actually have like, there's some money in there that I can actually use towards whatever I would want to use it for. Is that a good hack?
Oh, yes, that's a great hack. Automation is key, because once it's gone. Like you said, you might not even notice it's gone, right? Yeah. So setting up, another thing you can do is at the end of the year, go through the account, go through the balance, see what you have. Mm-hmm. Now you've been able to accumulate money for a year, and you want to be sure it's actually working for you. Mm-hmm. And you're not just putting it, because you can actually just throw your $20 under your bed because it's not bringing in any income. It's not bringing in gain for you, right? Yeah. So it's as good as you're losing money still due to inflation and all that. Mm-hmm. So at the end of the year, you want to see that whatever you're throwing aside is actually multiplying, is making sense, is bringing back some return. Mm-hmm. So for you, first step is automation. Set something aside, $20, good, great. Let it go aside. Mm-hmm. And then the next level is you want to monitor. You want to ensure that, every plan you have, your money is working according to it. Yeah. So you want to go back to your account and see how much did I make. It's not like you're going to be making like a huge amount of money anyways, but you want to be having the sense that your money is growing. Mm-hmm. So once you're able to get to that level, increase your monthly savings from 20. Now you can do 50. You're more comfortable. Mm-hmm. You think about how much growth you want or whatever purchase you want to make, and just plan according to it. Mm-hmm. So that's a very great hack for you, right? And it's applicable to everyone else.
I think that's where some people might get discouraged too. They might see the savings account. They're like, oh, it's only $2,000. It's never accumulated anything. But I think to your point, the second step would be trying to put it into something where it can continue to grow for you.
100%, 100%. I hear a lot of time people tell me, I just put something in my TFSA. Put it to where?
Yeah. But it's
TFSA
true.
is just a bucket. It's a
Yeah.
vehicle.
Yeah.
What is it doing for you? You have to start thinking about that. Okay, my investment with 10% return. Now we're talking. Yeah.
Speaking of investment, it's oftentimes people are investing in the market, or in most cases, people are trying to invest in their first home. And I'm just curious, what would you advise? Because you mentioned you bought your place on your own in different times, but I'm just curious because you're so involved with this industry today, what do you advise someone today in today's market to do in order to better set themselves up? What advice would you give them to better set themselves up to get a mortgage for their first home?
Yeah, so I definitely agree. It's really important to assess your finances. So look at your income, look at your expenses, look at your debt, check on your credit. It's really important that you know what you're bringing in, where it's going. When you're thinking about buying a house, and I have this conversation all the time, what you're approved for might not be what you actually want to buy, because you also have lifestyle, right? So if you are somebody who, that twice a year trip is super important to you and you want to be able to budget for that, then you want to make sure that your mortgage allows you that freedom to do that. Or maybe you say, hey, I can sacrifice one trip to make sure I'm affording, the higher mortgage payment. You really have to look at your lifestyle as well as what your income and what you're bringing in and what you're putting out. I think it's really important to save for your down payment. You don't necessarily need 20% down. So that's, I think, a misconception that's out there. I will say if you are purchasing over $1 million, you do need 20% down. But if you're not, you don't. And if you do have the ability to have 20% down, that opens up sort of a lot of more options for you on the broker world. But it doesn't have to be a deal breaker if you don't have 20% down. So start working on building those savings. Work with a professional who knows how to get your money to work for you. I also think it's super important to work with a mortgage professional, such as myself, or if you have a trusted mortgage agent or broker within your circle, because there's a lot of education about what an actual mortgage entails. And it's not just a one-done conversation. I've worked with clients for, a length of 3 years before a purchase was done. And it was just the process of, it could be something as crazy as they still need a PR card, because if they don't have their PR card, they're paying non-residence tax. And those are things that people don't know until you actually have those conversations with a professional. And I think it's also really important to just work on your credit. So pay your bills on time. Don't take out unnecessary debt if you don't need to. Don't close any of your accounts, even if your balance is at zero, because credit history is really important. If you are in a financial bind and you have a bankruptcy or a consumer proposal, work on getting those things taken care of. Talk to your mortgage agent and broker about it, because there are steps that you can take that will allow you to still qualify for a mortgage down the road. I think that those are some
Wow, those are big tips.
tips.
Well,
tips, yeah.
and just with that, so let's say me as a young professional, I would really love to buy a house here, but it seems so daunting that, the minimum now to kind of purchase anything is like $1 million, right? So what would be a good strategy for me to let's say, would I even consider something in the GTA? Would I look for something as an investment property, let's say outside, and start there and then kind of build my real estate portfolio that way?
Yeah. So I think nowadays in today's economy and market, especially as a first-time home buyer or even as any type of home buyer, you have to look at things a little bit more unconventionally. And what you said is a great point. If you currently live in Toronto and you rent a condo and you're happy here, but you're not going to be able to afford that same type of condo that you're renting, and you can be qualified for a mortgage that would approve you to buy a property, Coburg or Barrie or Niagara, why not make your first purchase an investment property? Buy that property, live where you want to live, buy where you can afford to buy, allow that property to be rented, allow it to build equity for you. And maybe in a year or two, let's look at it. Let's see how much equity is in that property. Perhaps then you can use that to leverage into a condo or a home here in the GTA, right? So I think you have to look at things really unconventionally now. The down payment is really daunting for a lot of people. And this is why, again, working with a professional is super important because, like you said, there are first-time home buyer incentives. We also, on the broker channel, have access to lenders who use down payment assistance programs. There's shared equity programs that are out there. You can use gifted down payment. Some lenders allow borrowed down payment. You can use your RRSPs for your down payment tax-free. So there are a lot of things that if you're not having the conversation with a professional, you're doing yourself a disservice because you hear, oh, the house price in Toronto is $1 million. I need 20% down. I don't have 20% down. I'm never going to be able to buy a property. And that's not necessarily true. Just maybe have to reframe the way you look at home ownership, especially as a first-time home buyer.
Yeah.
Or get some education. Yeah, I didn't know that you could qualify without doing the 20% because that's what I just thought. I just saw that number and I just saved up to that number and didn't buy until then. So that's a great education moment right there.
Well, I also like how you said we have to think about things unconventionally, right? Like because we're young professionals, we want to try to figure out a way to build our wealth.
Yeah.
And now it's not the same as it was back in the day for our family. So what are we going to do that's different? Yeah. And so maybe for me, my first actual home will be an investment property to your point.
Right. And I mean, there are some government incentive programs that don't work in the GTA just because of the way the house prices are and perhaps maybe the household income, but they can work in a smaller market that's outside of the GTA area. So, I mean, that could be a way to just leverage it, get into the market and sit on it, right? Yeah. Cohabitation is also something that's possible. So if you and friends or you and family decide to purchase something together, you can leverage your incomes together, you can leverage your savings together, purchase a property, live in it for a year or two together, and then move on. Maybe somebody can take it over or you can sell it, right? So I think you do have to look at it unconventionally. No longer do we just go to school, graduate, get a job, save a little bit of money, get married, have kids, live in a white picket fence. It doesn't happen anymore. And I think also the biggest misconception for first-time home buyers is the first house is not necessarily your final house.
Yeah, for sure.
I think I'm in my 6th house, right? So I think that also has to be reframed in your mind that maybe you are going to have to sacrifice a little bit on what you want. You're not going to get the HGTV home right off the bat. But as long as it's safe, it's livable, you can make it your house your home, right? Yeah. Or you can use it for an investment purpose.
It's the power of leverage, right?
Yeah.
You just
Speaking of unconventional, I'm just curious because Demi, you've migrated your whole family unconventionally, or I would say just in pursuit of living in, I guess, starting life here in Canada, and then you've done it successfully so far. And I'm just curious, like in terms of because she just mentioned, now that you've heard what she just said, what's your reaction to that in terms of because you're already investing in the money markets, but I'm just curious about what your reaction is to that in terms of investing in.
Yeah. So that's the power in information, right? You just have to keep educating yourself. Yeah. I always do appreciate talking to professionals. I don't make any decisions just based on shared knowledge of friends and all that. So I believe when it comes to properties, being an immigrant, I always tell immigrant like myself, when you come to Canada at some certain age, you have to think differently, right? So you won't be thinking at 50 years old, 45 years old, at this big, huge age, right? You want to start thinking about, I have to own a property in Ontario. I have to buy the biggest property, because the bigger your property is, I believe, the more loan you have on you, right?
Typically, the higher the value is, for sure.
Exactly. So how are you going to be able to make this payment and still have a befitting retirement? Do you want to work till you drop?
Yeah.
Those are the questions you have to ask yourself. But now that you know that you can actually invest in properties and make it an investment properties rather than you living in it, you can do that in another province, make it a cash cow, get money, like getting rental income to sustain yourself, even back in Ontario. That is a very good message, right? And this is one of the message I would love to pass that to, immigrant like myself. We don't really have to own a house or live in the house that we own to be into the investment property, business or investment property thing. So that's a very great tip. And thank you so much for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Well, let me ask you this, because what is the worst thing, since we're talking about all the best things, what's the worst thing that you can do before trying to qualify for a mortgage?
So there's a couple. I think don't change your job or your industry that you're working in. It's really best to have that consistent employment history and income history. Obviously, things can be mitigated if you've gotten a promotion or you've gotten a higher salary. But I wouldn't go from being like a doctor to starting your own hair salon in the same year or 6 months that you want to get a home. I just think the levels of income is going to be different. Okay, obviously don't take out like any unnecessary debt that you need. And it's really important that if you do have like a pre-approval in paper from your mortgage agent, like don't go and finance that car. It's not a done deal until your property closes. So incurring additional debt during that time can affect your loan in most likely a negative way. If you're fortunate that you have room in your lending ratios, it might not. But for most people, a car payment can potentially kill a deal. And I also think it's really just important to be honest about your credit history. So if you do have that consumer proposal, bankruptcy, missed payments, whatever it may be, when I do an application, I'm pulling the credit anyway, so I'm going to find out. It's really better to just be forthcoming with that so that I'm already thinking about where I can fit you with what lender versus, oh my gosh, you're in consumer proposal. I didn't know that. I could have advised you differently, or we could have waited, a couple months to pull the credit. So just really don't lie about your credit history. Be really forthcoming with it. And also don't forget that you do need closing costs, which is above and beyond your down payment, especially for first-time home buyers. That's often a piece that gets missed. Typically 1.5–2% of your purchase price, maybe a little bit more depending where you're buying and the value of the property. But it's really important to have that as well because you do need a lawyer to facilitate the transaction. There's a whole bunch of legal paperwork and back work that goes on that you have to pay for. There's going to be property tax adjustments. So this is why, again, it's important to work with a professional because you're going to be advised that you need these things as well above and beyond your down payment.
Wow. Well, speaking of, this is
money, guys.
Yeah, no, this is not serious. This is a serious topic because you see how everyone just went quiet because we're like really listening into like what Laura is saying. So, did you have any question related to, finance or investment?
I think it's just how do we start to get people feeling okay about where they are at in their financial journey? I think a lot of people feel uncomfortable, if they have like a lot of credit card debt and some people just honestly just have no idea how to manage their finances. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, how do we start the conversation with people being like, talk to a certified professional and be honest about where you are, because it could take 6 months to a year to completely change where you're at and put you in a better position, right? But it's being honest with yourself and being accountable maybe to somebody to start having, being like sharing where they're at. And so what would you advise, I guess, to young people to start doing? Like, should they talk to friends? Should they, how do we get more people comfortable about talking about money? Because it's very uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. Like, when is it time to invest in, like, save and do that part? Or, should they be thinking about investing in home? That's often the dichotomy for most people. So I'm just curious what both of your take is. And then we'll kind of wrap it up with the fast, what is it? I forgot the name.
Fast money.
Fast money questions at the end. So let's start with you, Demi.
Okay. So first thing I say is finance is one of the hardest topics to talk about, right? Just like you said, people shy away from it. So it's just like your health. People don't want to let you know what is going on inside of them. It's the same thing. But when you work with a professional, the first thing you need to know is that those people are for you. You know, along the way, they're with you. They're here to help you. You guys are working together for your own success. So I've been with clients before where you ask questions about health issues when it comes to insurance, and you hear, "No, I'm fine, I'm good," and then they get their health history pulled out, and it's all messed up.
Yeah.
You know, so, but if you're honest, if you're able to understand the fact that me as a professional, I'm here for you, and then you're relaxed enough to tell me every of your situation, I know the best places to put you to, right? I know the safest places in your situation. So first thing, you have to build that trust. And it's a two-way thing, right? The way I want you to trust me, I'm also leaning to trust you that you're giving me the right information. I believe it's the same thing for you. So yeah, it's a kind of secret thing, but with the right people, you should be able to open up and own it. And there's nothing like really bad, messed up situation.
Yeah.
You know, everybody knows life happens, but your willingness to be able to set things right makes the difference. So you should be comfortable enough to talk about those things with the right people. Financial literacy is key for me, you know, coming from two different extreme countries. Like where I come from, we don't believe in credit. We don't have credit. We don't own things and credit. You actually want to buy a house, you buy it cash down, you know, then coming into places, into a country like Canada, and then you're faced with so many people giving you credit card, you know, train this credit.
Yes.
If you're not educated, if you're not sound in this aspect, it's easy to mess things up. So being able to work with professionals sets you along to the right track, you know, and help you manage your finances. So yes, you don't shy away from conversations like that. You know, work with the right people. Don't even talk to your friends about it. That's the truth.
Yeah.
You know, because your friends pass along what they know, which might not be the best in your situation.
Yeah.
So look for the right people. Look for the right professional. Like myself, I'm here to help. You know, when it comes to mortgage, we have a guru here that is ready to help. Right?
I was actually going to say, oftentimes people believe that they should talk to their the same bank that they bank with. They just talk to them for everything, right? So, but obviously there's other outside options. So I'm just curious, Laura, like, do you think that first the answer to that question? But I'm just curious, before you answer that question, is that the right way to go for most people?
So to answer your question, I'm just going to exactly piggyback on you. I'm a mortgage agent. I'm not here to judge anybody who comes to me asking for advice about a mortgage. I started somewhere. We all start somewhere. I have debt. It is what it is, right? Like life is what it is. And I always, you know, like I said, honesty, just be forthcoming about what's going on in your situation, because then I can actually do my job and advise you correctly. And that's the end goal, is to advise you correctly, educate you, allow you to make the decision and feel like you're in control of the process. It's not about judgment. It's not about, oh my gosh, you owe like $100,000 in debt. It's not about that. If I know that, maybe I can refer you to somebody like a financial, you know, planner and advisor who can help you leverage your income in ways to get out of those situations. So yeah, I just think be honest. We're not here to judge. We are here to help. Like it's a service. Like we are in a service industry. It's not a sales industry. I'm here to like provide for my clients the best I can. In terms of going to the bank, so banks are like, there's nothing wrong with going to your bank. And I totally get people have brand loyalty. You've been with TD, Scotiabank, RBC, wherever for as long as you can remember. And I understand that and I get that. I think that you will get a competitive rate when you go to your bank. That's the truth. However, rate is really subjective to what you're being offered. I know because of my experience and my education that in the broker world, there are so many mortgage options that are available that the bank does not have. So when you walk into your local branch, they can offer you the products that they offer you, and you need to fit into the guidelines to get what they offer. And if you do, that's great. And if you feel comfortable working with your branch, that's fine too. Like, I'm not saying don't go to your branch. However, there's programs that I discussed here today. There's little tidbits. There are lenders who lend on the actual interest rate you're going to get. They don't use the stress test to qualify you. There are lenders that will extend the ratios for you depending on your circumstance. So again, it's just about education. I do encourage my clients that I talk to who say, well, I've been with TD for so many years. Absolutely, you need to go and talk to them because you need to feel like that what I've said is valid and true, and you need to decide really what works best for you. Will you get a competitive rate? Yes. Will you be in the best product for you? I don't know, right? If your goal is in 3 years to have children or to move, do you want to be locked into a 5-year fixed rate? Maybe not, because you're going to plan on breaking it in 3 years if you're moving. Or, banks typically have larger penalties to break their mortgage than some of the other lenders that I work with. That's important for you to know, especially if you're in a fixed rate product. So absolutely go to your bank. It's just really subjective. And I think you really need to understand the product that you're being placed in to make sure that not all mortgages are the same. You want to make sure it really fits you, your goals, and what you're looking for.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that you always consider people's lifestyle and like their life itself. So thank you so much to both of you guys for joining us today. Celia, did you have any bonus round that you want to throw at them?
We have the rapid fire questions that I'm just going to pop up here on my phone.
So I can't prepare for this question.
All right.
So let me just pull it up. Oh, wait. We're going to
I'm also not good at math in my head, just as an FYI.
I didn't even know there's something.
I need a calculator.
We don't need you to be a math genius for these questions.
Okay.
These are more like your preferential.
Oh, perfect.
Okay, so rapid fire questions for the both of you. We'll start off with Demi. What is your favorite month?
February.
February. Mm-hmm. Really?
That is rapid fire right there.
January.
January? Wow, both winter.
Well, it's my birthday.
Okay, fair enough.
When is your birthday?
The 29th.
Oh, okay.
And I'm turning 29 again.
Oh, nice. Perfect.
Favorite food?
Oh, my ice cream? Does ice cream count?
Ice cream counts.
I love ice cream.
Demi?
Food.
Food. I love that. Who is your hero?
Ooh. Well, I would say, of course, my mom is somebody that I look up to a lot.
Yeah. Demi?
Of course, my mom.
Yeah. My mom too, actually.
Moms are great.
I know, right?
100%.
Something like a mom.
I don't know. I could leave my mom behind.
Favorite breakfast food?
Bacon.
Oh, I love bacon.
Eggs.
Eggs and bacon. I love both.
Yeah.
Of them.
See, I feel like they just make such a good combo.
I also love toast because I love bread.
All right. Well, I think I'm gonna ask some rapid questions because these are not very rapid questions.
These are rapid.
Okay, so I'm gonna do Laura, and then I'll go to Demi. But this will give Demi time to think, but it's okay.
Great.
Okay, so are you a beach person or a mountain person?
Beach, but in the shade.
How about you,
I'm right
Demi?
there with you, girl.
Beach.
Okay. Coffee or tea?
Neither.
What?
Wow.
No, I don't drink coffee or tea.
How do you wake up in the morning?
Just water.
Wow.
How about you, Demi?
Coffee.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Demi, you're overdosed right now as we speak.
You're the one that had the shot of espresso.
Yeah. Night or morning person?
Night.
How about you, Demi?
Night.
Night.
Oh.
Okay. All right.
So we're just coming alive right now. It's 8:20.
All right. Well, anyways, I think that kind of brings me to the end of the questions. And thank you for joining us today. Before we leave, I'd love to ask Laura, where can people find you?
So you can find me on Instagram at laurahealeymortgage.ca. That's also my website.
Love it.
On
Demi?
Instagram, mine is quite long. It's Laura Damilola Kuku
We will not. You know what? Don't even.
Can you spell that out for us?
We'll put it in the description.
It's pretty long.
And with that, your first social media tip is to make
Change your
name so that people can find you easily.
Okay.
And you can find us on Instagram at the Better Woman Project Podcast. And my name is Naima. Thank you for joining us this week.
And my name is Celia. And thank you guys for coming so much. That was
Thank
such
you.
a great
Thank you
episode.
for having us.
And we'll see you next week for another
Another
episode.
episode.